She was here a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Did you watch her talk?
Yeah, I got a ticket and all, it was great.
Oh, that's awesome. So anyways, yeah, so that's my end of things. What can you tell us about your research?
So I suppose my research kind of stems from, started off when I was 3 years old when my uncle popped me on a Shetland pony and I was just smitten. So I did everything that normal people do, go through pony club, ride. I went to university, studied horses, worked in the industry for several years. Then I got a little bit disillusioned and I went out of the industry. But the bond thing with horses never left me, and I was always fascinated by that kind of like, what is it that makes you so connected to a being at 3 years of age when you don't really understand and all that kind of stuff. So that never left me. The chance to do a master's in animal behaviour and welfare came up. Mm-hmm. I did that, and then a PhD in human bond came up. Oh, wow. So I was very, very lucky because those kind of PhDs don't come up every day.
Yeah. What's the PhD in, sorry?
So, well, I'd like to call it the horse-human bond.
Yeah, horse-human bond, yeah.
How horses help people.
Yeah.
But I'm very much on the horse side as well.
Yes.
So I really like that kind of, the welfare of the horse side of things as well as the human side of things. So technically I'm supposed to be doing research on the humans, but I always keep dipping into the horse side.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So yeah, we were dealing with Igala, and I have my own story with horses. Like I grew up with horses. I had went through a lot of trauma. I had a lot of trauma through my childhood, I guess, generational trauma, and I had that connection with horses as well. And they pulled me through without me even knowing.
Yeah.
I've been a horse trainer for 20 years, and they pulled me through some pretty dark times.
I lost a mare 3 years ago now, from old age. It was great, she was 30, but I had her from a foal. I owned her mother, and she basically went through all of my teenage years, all of my university, all of my ups and downs in life, and she was the constant. And I think that's one of the things about horses. They seem to be the constant that, pulls you through. They're like something to hang on to when things are bad, but there's something to really enjoy when things are good.
So can you tell us about, what
my research?
Your research, yeah, that's...
So at the moment, because obviously like horse equine assisted services consist of your practitioner, your horse, your client and your environment. Mm-hmm. So up to now really I'm looking at the practitioner side of the equation. So, what is it about the practitioner that makes it good?
Okay.
And what skills do practitioners maybe need to provide a good service?
Okay.
And that includes skills with horses, knowing horses,
yeah.
Being able to feel how the horse is coping with situations, if they're finding it good, if they're finding it not, taking people out, bringing people in, all of that kind of a mix. And the story that I'm looking at the moment actually has to do with practitioners' perspectives of what is the underlying mechanisms, why do horses help people?
Yeah.
And some of the things we're looking at are like that connection, the hook that brings you in, starts it all off.
So what is it?
Yes,
well,
tell us.
That's the question. That's the...
People ask us all the time where we're like, it's hard to put it in words.
Yes, it's really, really hard to put in words. Like the process in equine assisted service, I suppose, is a little bit easier because I have that hook, and then it goes on to the relational aspects, so the relationship between the horse and the client, the horse and the practitioner and the client, or the people that might be in the situation at the same time. All these multiple relationships, and multiple species relationships all going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And the client perhaps is getting information from each of these to kind of become more emotionally and relationally literate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and that's building into the well-being of the client, and how they feel. So for me anyway, if I'm in a good mood, I'm always learning better.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the side effects of horses. You kind of feel better after it as well. So there's loads of things going on at the same time, and let's try and pick those apart. And in terms of practitioners, how can we educate ourselves better to make that better?
Well, that's amazing.
Oh my goodness, that's
and
amazing.
Myself, I've taught riding to lots of different people, hundreds of different people, and I can see the internal stuff in the people. It always comes out on the horse, right? Like when I teach, Jane watched me doing some teaching, and you know, what I would say to the person about how to deal with their horse, a lot of times it was what they had going on inside them. You know, it was actual life lessons like be confident, or you know, softer, smoother, be easier on them, or
Set
you know,
a
all those
boundary.
things. Setting boundaries, the correct boundaries, so they don't push you around. It was I see it on the other end,
Yeah.
which is
yeah.
quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's that healthy relationship thing as well. You know, making sure the relationships are healthy, because a lot of people have, in the past, that have issues, have had really dysfunctional relationships, and they don't really get what a healthy relationship is all about. So I think horses really help that, because they're not very easy, but they're cleaner to kind of
Yes.
figure out. You know, if a horse walks away, you know, it's not because they hated the assignment that you did last week.
No.
It could be because they've simply had enough today, or maybe you're quite negative and they've decided, oh no, this is a bit more positive, I'll go over here. Much cleaner, not full of extra.
They're fresh.
Yeah.
Every day they're fresh. Unless, I mean, they get the wrong start, then sometimes, you know, the
Yeah.
proper foundation, then they don't have that fresh start. But yeah, I definitely resonate with
That's
that.
a really important thing, I think, as well, because we can incorporate like rescue horses, but we have to be sure that they have themselves had work done so that they are as healthy as possible as well.
The proper foundation.
Yeah. So, like, you know, just because you had problems in the past doesn't mean you can never get over them. But we have to be aware that if they had problems in the past and you don't take allowances for that, there could be safety issues or.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's really amazing. Yeah.
I kind of find your PhD really interesting, because essentially you're really trying to put a language around something that is, for me, I keep on saying you can't describe it in words. So what you're doing is putting into words, you're breaking that magical experience, and like going, here's, maybe you'll create new words. You know, maybe there's new words to describe that human horse, why a horse has such an impact on our nervous system and on our well-being, and the woo-woo side of that, you know?
Yes.
It is so huge. Like, there is a tiny bit of me that is that spiritual something else, but as a scientist I have to keep that to one side.
Do, don't you? Yeah.
Because I can't let that take over.
You can't say it's just the energy.
No, you have to kind of, because at the end of the day, funders don't want to know about
exactly.
energies and woo-woo and spirituality. They want to know about X plus Y equals Z equals the outcomes that we need. So, so I suppose it's getting the evidence-based, so that we can show the world that, you know, this is valuable work, and this really helps people, and it's worth doing.
Well, it's everywhere you look right now. There's horses everywhere. You know, on every ad, maybe not every ad.
TV shows.
TV shows. There's horses.
Music.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody can relate with them.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's positive or negative, you know, you have those kids that had bad experiences when they were young, and then, you know, they drifted away. But yeah, everybody can resonate with a horse. It's a language that everybody speaks. Like, it's the same language. It's quite amazing. Feel. You talked about feel for a second there. That's been, as a horse trainer and a clinician, trying to teach feel to people.
Yeah.
Like, that's something else. Like, is that more? That's more on a personal level, is it not? Like a self love.
Feel is it, because you can talk about feel in the equine assisted sense, and you can talk about feel in the I'm a horse trainer, or I'm trying to bring this horse around to me sense, and they're very similar. But one, like if you're like riding or you're training horses, somebody is like overseeing that, often your supervisor or your instructor can say, oh, that worked really well, could you feel that? Did you see how he changed? Did you see the change? Or that didn't work, did you notice what you had done just before? And that's a way we can kind of teach feel. But it is also like an embodied experience, so sometimes you subconsciously learn this stuff as well without even realizing it. Feel is a really difficult one. I'd love if somebody wrote like a definition. This is what feel is. That's
what I've been. You know, I've grown up. I was basically born on a horse, so I've grown up with horses my whole life, and you have to teach that. And some people, I don't want to say they can't get it, but it's really hard for them to feel. Really hard. And I don't know if that's more of a within within yourself
Yeah.
first, and then the feel starts coming out
Yeah.
with your horses.
I think as well, like a lot of people are in their heads all the time, so they're overthinking. They're thinking about what they're having for dinner. They're thinking about what they did wrong. They're not in their bodies.
Clear mind.
And I think being in your body allows you to learn about feel much better. And I think a lot of people that are going into equine assisted service, they're not in their bodies, they're in their heads. And the horses really help them to get into their bodies. And I think it's once they can get into their bodies, they can maybe start to learn feel. And some people maybe they're always going to be in their heads more than their bodies.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that can be learnt. But it has to be, the horses is great for that because it gets into your body.
Yeah. So I've been in rodeo culture, cowboy culture my whole life, and with mental health side of things. So I'm trying to come at it a different direction. I'm trying to bring mental health awareness to cowboy culture, because the people who have grown up with horses, they're really delayed. I don't want to say delayed, but to speak about self-love and to speak about caring for yourself and all those things, it doesn't happen much.
That's a really, really interesting.
Yeah,
that's
the
something-
caretakers. The
Yeah.
caretakers of the horses are the ones that are being left behind, and that's our foundation.
And there's a lot of parallels then that I can see in the horse industry, and particularly in the racing industry, because just because you're with horses doesn't make you healthy and good well-being. A lot of like jockeys have a very tough life. They're with horses 24/7, but they're at the limit of their physical and mental abilities all the time. And they can find it really hard, and they actually could do with the equine assisted work on a more basic level.
That's what he's meaning. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like
and then that's our work with Egala too. Is we're trying to just implement like our foundations called Caring for Cowboys and Cowgirls, but in reality, those are going to be the last people that go for the help. But what we're trying to do is raise the awareness on the equine industry, on mental health.
Yeah, and that equine culture can be a bit damaging.
Equine culture,
if you want to call it equine culture.
No, it is. It's a family.
Yeah, because we all start off as these little children that really want to be with horses and really want to have that connection and be friends. But somewhere along the way, people bang into us that horses have to respect us, they have to do what we want. And it's almost like unhealthy relationships become the norm in some ways sometimes. So when you come out the other end, then you have to unlearn all that and get back to the roots of being with horses, which is much simpler and hasn't got that horse culture bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not real familiar with the race culture, but there's definitely a softer side to the training and the showing, but greed gets in the way of that stuff. And then when you get greed and money, it's no longer not taking care of the horse anymore. It's an ego. It's an ego thing, which it all gets clouded. But there is, I do see the horses that are taken care of. Those are the ones that thrive. The ones that are in the Western discipline, anyways. They're the ones that will stand out long term, maybe not short term. The futurities, the young horses, those horses may break down a little bit sooner, but the ones that you've done the proper foundation, like people, you set up that proper foundation. Those ones are the ones that last.
And taking your time, that's really important. And I said about the race industry, but the general horse industry, competition horse industry is similar. I couldn't say that that's better or worse. There's all kind, and there's similar good people and there's similar not so good people within all of that. And then there is that other kind of, so we're looking after the horse and we're training them in a certain way that makes them feel better about themselves and their longevity is much greater. But there's also that kind of piece then as well about keeping the horse in the horse. So, allowing them a little bit of agency, whether that be your management is more outdoors or that they're with their friends, they're beside, another friend, they've got their forage, if they're able to go out in Ireland, we're very lucky, most horses are able to go out and graze every day. But if they can't and they're in a stable, they can have maybe 2 or 3 different types of forage that they can choose or they have a little bit of autonomy.
I have a sectional land, so 640 acres, but my own horses, the best place for them was out in the pasture. even in the wintertime, we'd unroll hay and they'd pick through the hay, but they stay the healthiest when they're out moving and out with friends and all those things.
Like humans, we need to get outside and be with friends.
Yeah, but
Do our own thing.
It's a
No.
natural,
Yeah.
it's a natural environment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's big time natural environment. It keeps everything so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier. They're happy horses.
Yeah.
That's our company, happy
That,
horses.
yeah. Well, and to keep them happy, you have to kind of think, what do horses need, and kind of try to replicate that in some way. You know?
That's exactly our ethos. Is
Really?
of
Yeah.
happy horses. What is we've been thinking about that. What's the criteria for a happy horse? Because we've been going to, what do you call them, like kids rodeos and things, and then as a prize given a bag of happy horses mineral, and it goes to the happiest horse. So we had to that led us to the question, what does make a happy horse?
Yeah.
And so what would you say to that? I mean, aside from everything we've just talked about, like good pasture and
I suppose you do have to go back to what they would have in a more wild state.
yeah.
And about half an hour's drive from here, there's a place called Murlock, which is like
I
a
know
conservation
Murlock.
grazing.
Beautiful.
And they have some Exmoor ponies. And I go, most Fridays I go down and observe them, because that's part of it as well. How do I feel in the presence of these feral horses? It's not just doing stuff, So I really enjoy that, and it kind of gets me calm as well. But out there, they have their friends, they have their shelter, which isn't like indoors. It's just a big gorse bush that they might sit in. If it's a very windy day, they're all together. At certain times of day, they all go to the water together or lie down together. So I think a big thing is having some autonomy to do what they want, but being in a herd is really, really important. So I think that's probably the number one thing. And then that if they can't be in that herd, that they have a novel environment, that things are going on all the time. If they have to be in a stable, that that their friend is next door, that they have the right food over the day that mimics their natural biology, 16 hours plus a day eating or whatever, and then they have some freedom, and like friends, like humans can be part of their friends as well. So if we have good relationships with our horses, that really helps. If we have bad relationships with our horses, then that's the opposite. So it all kind of comes in together.
Yeah, and I've seen if you have a bad horse in a pen, the horse that you have with them will start picking up the negative behaviors too.
Yeah.
Like it's just like people. It's who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, well, I think if your friend is in a good mood, you'd be better mood. If your friend isn't in a good mood and is off, like,
I just put those pieces together.
Yeah. So, the ideal world is to have that feral environment or all in a herd 24/7. But every step we get to being closer to that, the better for the horse. So I think we always have to be improving. How can we do stuff better to make the horse better, and then that would help our relationships.
I've taught Western. A lot of what I do is to build collection, so get their bodies, their ribs lifted, strengthen up the back. I guess like that's more of a natural form. Like I've always asked, or I've always said, horses weren't meant for us to ride. We ride them just the way things have evolved. When we put our weight on the back, it hollows their back out, and I mean their whole posture goes away. Like that's important again with the natural carriage and all those things. Do you look much into that side of things?
Not really, because the riding in the equine-assisted services that I'm looking into is more therapeutic riding. So people with like different disabilities or autism or whatever, and they're finding the movement for the horse really important. However, when horses are engaged in these kind of activities, it is important that they're strong on their bodies. So I do know people that they do the therapeutic riding and things during working hours, but then they have good riders that ride the horses a couple of times a week to keep the bodies of those horses strong. So it's not a direct equine assisted thing, but it is indirectly, it's in there.
Yeah, no, that really makes sense, because my customers, I tune their horses up because they pick up those bad habits. They get the hollows in their back, or they wouldn't be respecting those boundaries, those proper boundaries. And with equine assisted therapy, I could see that would happen quite a bit. Those horses would lose those boundaries and start pushing people around and not keep that proper carriage and
the proper carriage, like walking in a nice defined way, like a strong walk, for example. It has a different feel for the rider than just kind of like dub. And whereas maybe if it's just somebody wanting to ride a horse, that doesn't matter so much. If you are, say, a physiotherapist that wants to work on somebody's balance or tone or whatever, that good walk, that's coming from a strong, educated horse.
Strong core,
it's a part of it. It wouldn't be the riding part is long way back in my history. I would, in my teens and early 20s, I would have been into dressage, and that would have been my big thing. Self-carriage is really important, but I'm just a little bit too far away to go really deep into it.
But you've dabbled into it, I enjoy dogging you just because you've been through it all. It's like going to a therapist who hasn't been through the things you've been through, right?
Yeah.
Like you can resonate with what I feel and what I think and what I see. And I'm from a complete different background where I've trained horses my whole life, where the mental health and all that type of stuff is so. I'm learning more, but it's kind of putting the pieces together for me, helping put the pieces together. But if I get on a horse that's, like you said, just pleasure road, and that horse is stiff and it feels sore, and I can work it back and get it soft and get the proper posture and strong walk. It takes a little bit of time, but that totally resonates with me too. It's definitely a thing.
Oh, we've never had a conversation before. This is crazy.
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I love, whenever I teach, I know the people that have a dressage or English background. They're always the ones that ride correctly, in my opinion. They have proper posture, they have proper feel. They just ride a lot more correctly. I rode English when I was younger as well, so I had a good foundation. But it definitely means something.
Yeah, and really a lot has to do with the right instructors or instructor. Because when I was a teenager, I had a great instructor that she was very much on the old tradition, lightness in the aids and whatever. Whereas there can be other types of instructors that will be a bit more harsh or aversive, methods, which is becoming a bit more popular, unfortunately, at the moment. I think being lucky to have a good instructor or somebody to guide you early on is really important.
It was like my math teacher in school. I had a great math teacher. I loved math, but I'm not going to say any other subjects. But it's that instructor that can really resonate with you and you can align with. And I'm definitely more of a softer teacher. Lots of positive encouragement. A lot of people do this, well, most people do this for pleasure.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to get yelled at when you're enjoying yourself. You need to learn, definitely learn, but it's something you should enjoy. And really, the past few years of my training business, I wasn't enjoying as much either, so I've kind of shifted gears, and now I'm able to enjoy things a lot more as well.
Yeah, an instructor that understands you as a person, because that's the one thing about when I was a teenager. One particular instructor, she knew exactly what pony that I needed to progress. Not to scare me, because if I got scared, I wouldn't.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So just enough of a challenge that I could progress, and to make myself feel good about myself, that I'd achieved something. Because once you're overwhelmed, then that's you kind of go backwards. So it's a great skill.
My mom's taught young kids for her whole life, and it takes a few lessons for them to warm up, but then they start coming out of their shells and opening up and all those things. I've never been a strong teacher for children. I like the adults. I like taking people to the next level of their competition and that type of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely have to have a knack for the kids and be patient and build that confidence. That's huge. That's huge.
Rita, we don't want to take up too much more of your time because I know you have to be somewhere pretty soon. But so, I mean, you've got your PhD going on, and what's the ultimate goal then with the PhD? How would you like to see things change, or what is it that you're, the long-term vision for?
I don't know. It's wide open because I'm learning every day. I'm learning something new, even though I'm X number of years into this. It's a wide open field. There's lots more jigsaw pieces to go into the right place.
Yeah.
I'd really love for people, for practitioners, some kind of competency framework that potential practitioners or even practitioners now can kind of go, this is the skills that I need. This is what I should be working towards in order to be the best practitioner for my horses, for my clients, for the industry. So I'd really love for that to be kind of formalized. I love the One Health idea that, the health of humans and the environment and people are all interconnected.
That's lovely. One Health.
So I really think that's something that we should all be taught, the interconnectedness and the relational aspect. It really is very relational, equine assisted services, much more so than other types of therapy and interventions. So I think we could probably do with having a really high skill set in that area.
Yeah.
So that we're using this amazing tool of relational tool. We also need the competencies behind that to do the best.
Yeah, it can't just be willy-nilly.
No.
So like a framework and a structure to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
That's amazing.
Thank you for your time,
Yeah,
Rita.
thank you. Great.
If
Thank you
people
so
want to
much.
find out more about you, is it something that you're promoting on social media, or is this something that will come out later, or?
Well, I have my little Facebook page, Equine Assisted Research.
Love it.
So that's nice and simple.
Equine Assisted Research
That's
on
all it is.
Facebook.
Yeah, but all it is basically I set it up just to kind of document my journey.
Yeah.
It's quite quiet, but I should be coming out with more results and findings in the next year, so that should get much busier.
Well, certainly, people in our community will love to find out more and to stay connected.
Great.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you very much.
Thank you.